But even Donald Trump is sounding alarms about Germany's military rise. General Douglas MacArthur once warned, "Never let Germany rearm." And now that exact fear is becoming reality. But what exactly triggered this silent transformation? Europe's largest economy has shifted gears from pacifism to rearmament. This isn't just about Germany buying weapons. It's about rewriting the military balance of an entire continent. But this Germany is not stopping at tanks. It's building a future war machine. Weapons, doctrine, production lines, everything is being re-engineered to fight. And what's coming next may not only change Germany, but redefine the future of Europe's wars. On February 24, 2022, Vladimir Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, deploying nearly 190,000 Russian troops to the border. That single decision detonated not only Ukrainian cities, but decades of military silence in Europe. But what Putin didn't foresee was that his move would trigger Germany's deepest military instincts. For 80 years, Germany had taken a passive stance. It avoided wars, kept defense spending low, and chose diplomacy over conflict. This wasn't by accident. It was a national strategy rooted in trauma and international caution. General Douglas MacArthur had once warned, "Never let Germany rearm." And that warning shaped policy for generations. But Putin's invasion shattered that logic overnight. Within days, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz declared a turning point that marked the rebirth of German defense doctrine. But this wasn't just about speeches. Germany approved the shipment of weapons to Ukraine, something unthinkable just weeks before. It committed to spending over 2% of its GDP annually on defense. That meant billions redirected toward tanks, missiles, and troops. It also meant the revival of a political will Germany had buried since World War II. This shift wasn't only about Germany. It sent shockwaves through the balance of power in Europe. A nation known for industrial efficiency was now mobilizing that same machinery for war. And this wasn't temporary. Political parties that used to oppose each other now stood united behind rearmament. It no longer mattered who held office. The military project would continue either way. But what made this moment truly historic was how fast it happened. In just 3 days, Germany went from diplomatic restraint to military mobilization. That speed alone terrified Moscow. It meant Germany wasn't just reacting, it was preparing. It wasn't just responding, it was transforming. And for the Kremlin, a united rearming Germany wasn't just bad news. It was a geopolitical nightmare in motion. Putin's goal was to divide Europe and weaken NATO. Instead, he created the conditions for the most heavily armed and politically united Germany in modern history. But this was just the beginning, because what came next would turn a defensive shift into an unstoppable military revolution. Germany didn't just promise to increase defense spending, it rewrote the rules to make it permanent. By 2031, the country will spend up to 5% of its GDP on defense, reaching an estimated $250 billion annually, almost double what Russia is spending in the middle of a full-scale war. To make that possible, Germany changed its constitution. Defense is now an exception to fiscal constraints, unlocking hundreds of billions in new funding. German companies like Rheinmetall are repurposing old Volkswagen plants to mass-produce tanks. Thousands of workers are being hired, and entire factories are now dedicated to war production. But this isn't just about numbers. Germany is building a new industrial ecosystem for high-intensity warfare, and it's not doing it alone. German engineers are helping Ukraine produce weapons inside Ukrainian territory, missiles that can hit Moscow, drones that can bypass Russian radar. And Germany has lifted all restrictions. Ukraine can target any Russian base it wants. But these decisions go far beyond war zones. They expose Russia to a long-term threat, the revival of Europe's war industry under German leadership. Once dormant, the German industrial machine is now geared toward destruction, and it doesn't stop once it starts. Putin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov publicly warned that these moves violate any prospect of future peace, but Moscow knows it cannot stop the shift. In contrast to past rearmament efforts in Europe, this time there's no internal resistance. German public opinion supports military buildup. Political parties, once divided, are now aligned. The defense sector is no longer a point of debate. It's national consensus. And when Germany moves with unity, its scale and efficiency reshape everything. But there's one detail that elevates the risk even more. Germany isn't just producing weapons, it's deploying troops. For the first time since World War II, it is permanently stationing armored brigades outside its borders, like the 45th Panzer Brigade in Lithuania, directly on the Russian frontier. But Germany's rearmament doesn't just worry Moscow because of the hardware, it worries them because of the timing. While Russia is bogged down in Ukraine, burning through men and machines, Germany is building the military of the future, one missile, one factory, and one doctrine at a time. And there's something else Russia didn't expect, because the next step in Germany's military transformation is no longer just about arming, it's about leading. Germany's response to the invasion was immediate and historic. Just 3 days after Russian troops crossed into Ukraine, Chancellor Olaf Scholz stood before Parliament and declared a Zeitenwende, a turning point in German history. Germany didn't just condemn the war, it broke long-standing taboos, announcing arms shipments to Ukraine, increasing its defense budget beyond 2% of GDP, and approving sanctions on an unprecedented scale. According to Scholz, this new reality required a clear response, and Germany gave it. But this wasn't just a shift in policy, it was a shift in identity. The country that for decades avoided conflict was now committing to military engagement in Europe. It joined EU efforts to cut off Russian funding, banned exports of high-tech goods to Moscow, and began targeting Russian oligarchs operating inside the EU, all within days. But the true consequence of this move wasn't diplomatic, it was strategic. Germany's decision signaled to every capital in Europe that the post-Bopil-Defad military order was collapsing. A power long viewed as passive was suddenly at the forefront of armed response, this time not led by the US, but by Berlin. And for Russia, that meant something entirely different. Unlike the United States, Germany doesn't fight halfway across the world. It fights to defend its home. A Germany defending Europe is faster, closer, and more committed than any external ally. For Moscow, that changes every calculation. But the consequences didn't stop at weapons and budgets. The German public backed this transformation. Protests in Russian cities were rising, but inside Germany, the fear of Putin had created rare political unity. Even parties that once opposed any military action now supported rearmament. This wasn't just a policy shift, it was national consensus. And that's exactly what makes it dangerous for Russia. Because once Germany commits to a path, it moves with industrial precision. And this was just the beginning. But what came next wasn't just about reacting to war. It was about preparing for the future. And that's where the nightmare really begins. The turning point came when Germany announced it would no longer just support Ukraine. It would actively prepare for war. The announcement wasn't symbolic. It came with hard numbers, clear plans, and irreversible decisions. Germany is not only arming, it's positioning itself to lead the military future of Europe. Training exercises have shifted. No more peacekeeping drills. Now, German soldiers simulate full-scale war against Russian-style forces. The new military doctrine has a name: readiness for war. It's not about having modern equipment. It's about being mentally and operationally prepared to use it. The Bundeswehr is transforming into a strike-ready army. NATO exercises confirm that Germany is no longer in training mode. It's preparing to fight. But Germany isn't preparing alone. It's building new alliances and expanding military infrastructure in the east. The 45th Panzer Brigade, composed of 4,800 soldiers, is now permanently deployed in Lithuania, on the Russian border. These are not symbolic troops. They're equipped with modern tanks and infantry vehicles ready for immediate combat. But for Moscow, this isn't just a threat, it's a nightmare scenario. Unlike American forces, which can be recalled, German troops are defending their own continent. Any attack on the Baltics now means directly attacking German personnel. That changes every strategic calculation. Germany's leadership was never expected. For decades, it let France and Britain dominate Europe's defense discussions. But now, Berlin is setting the pace. It's deciding which weapons are produced, where they're stationed, and how NATO reacts. And the rest of Europe is following. But there's one detail that reveals how serious things have become. Germany is building weapons inside Ukrainian territory. Together, Germans and Ukrainians are developing long-range missiles capable of reaching Moscow and drones designed to strike deep into Russian bases. And all of it is being produced in locations that Putin can't bomb without triggering a broader war. But that's not the only shift. Public discourse in Germany has changed. Propaganda from Russia tried to link this moment to Nazi-era rearmament. hoping to create fear. It failed. German public opinion now supports the buildup. What once would have sparked protest is now national policy, and that's where the danger compounds. Because what Putin feared most, a rearmed Germany, is no longer theoretical. It's real, it's operational, and it's gaining momentum every month. But Germany's final step may be even more surprising, because it's preparing for a Europe without American protection, and what that means for NATO is something no one was ready for. Germany is no longer just strengthening its army. It is reshaping Europe's entire defense structure. Berlin is now leading projects that merge industrial efficiency with military strategy, aiming to create a self-sufficient European defense network. The country is investing in large-scale joint production with Ukraine. Factories in Ukrainian territory, supported by German engineering, are already manufacturing long-range missiles and combat drones capable of hitting Russian strategic targets deep inside its borders. This means Ukraine is now armed with weapons built at a speed and precision that Russia struggles to match. But Germany's plan doesn't stop there. It's creating a long-term military roadmap designed to free Europe from total dependence on the United States. With Washington increasingly focused on the Pacific, Germany is preparing NATO for the possibility of defending the continent alone. This is not a temporary plan, it's a shift in doctrine, but this strategy also increases the stakes. As Germany grows stronger, Russia faces a more hostile front line, not just from NATO as a whole, but from a highly unified European force. The geopolitical balance that Putin relied on for decades is collapsing. Berlin's leadership has turned into the core of Europe's response. In comparison, Russia is burning through resources in Ukraine, while Germany and its allies are modernizing in real time. While Moscow faces equipment shortages, Germany is rolling out new AI-driven combat systems, upgraded Leopard tanks, and future-ready war platforms. But here is where tension escalates. Germany's rise is inspiring other European nations to follow the same path. A wave of rearmament is spreading across the continent, with countries aligning their standards to the German model: quality, speed, and coordination. And that sets the stage for something even bigger, because the next step in this strategy is not just rearming Europe, it's preparing for a fully militarized alliance capable of standing alone against any power. The most advanced weapons now arriving in Germany are not just for deterrence, they are designed for dominance. Among them, 35 F-35 fighter jets capable of carrying U.S. tactical nuclear bombs, making Germany a permanent pillar of NATO's nuclear strategy. Alongside them, the Arrow 3 missile defense system, purchased from Israel, is being installed. It can intercept ballistic missiles not just in the air, but in space. That alone reshapes the battlefield. Putin invested billions in hypersonic missiles, hoping to bypass Western defenses. Now Germany owns a system designed to stop them before they even enter the atmosphere. But this is just the beginning. Germany is building the Main Ground Combat System, a next-generation armored platform integrating AI, autonomous drones, and real-time battlefield communication. It's not just a tank, it's a networked war machine built for the next decade of warfare. But this isn't just a technological evolution, it's a strategic one. For decades, Germany built peacekeeping forces. Now it's training for high-intensity war. NATO drills simulate battles against Russian-style forces, and the results are clear. Germany isn't preparing for if, it's preparing for when. But the true revelation isn't the weapons, it's the mindset. Germany has crossed the psychological line. It no longer sees war as a distant concept. The government is preparing for a future where Germany might defend Europe alone, without American forces. And if that moment comes, Putin will face a fully autonomous European force with Germany at the helm. But there's something else even more alarming. This transformation has public support. German citizens, once strongly anti-war, now back rearmament. The trauma of history has been overtaken by the fear of Putin. Propaganda attempts to compare this moment to the 1930s have failed. The German population sees this not as aggression, but as defense of democracy. And that's what Putin didn't calculate. He thought military buildup would divide the West. Instead, it has united Germany around a new military identity, one that no longer waits for permission and no longer plays defense. But now, Germany's influence is spreading because the real shift isn't national, it's continental, and what comes next could transform all of Europe. Germany is no longer just a support player in European defense. It is now the center of gravity. After decades of military restraint, Berlin is embracing a doctrine known as readiness for war. That means not just possessing advanced weapons, but mentally preparing to use them. This is a tectonic shift in European military culture. Germany is building a force capable of deterring Russia without relying on American leadership. By 2026, it will have operational F-35s armed with U.S. tactical nuclear bombs. In 2025, the A-3 missile shield will go online, capable of intercepting hypersonic warheads in space. By 2027, 4,800 German troops with modern armor will be permanently deployed in Lithuania, right at Russia's doorstep. But Germany isn't acting alone. It's transforming the continent. Its model of rapid rearmament, constitutional reform, and industrial mobilization is being watched closely. If Germany can rearm efficiently and peacefully, other European powers may follow. The continent could become the most heavily militarized since the Cold War, not out of aggression, but as a coordinated shield. Putin once hoped the Ukraine war would divide NATO, but instead, he has united Europe around a common threat and unintentionally handed Germany the mandate to lead. From tanks to drones to factory networks inside Ukraine itself, the German military machine is moving faster than anyone predicted. But there's a deeper irony. This isn't the Germany MacArthur feared. It's a democracy, now positioning itself as Europe's shield, not its threat. And that makes it more dangerous to Russia than ever, because it's not just armed, it's justified. And yet the consequences may reach beyond Europe. What happens when the largest European economy builds the most efficient war machine and inspires others to do the same? Germany's transformation isn't just about weapons, it's a warning. The continent has changed forever, and this time, the drums of war are echoing from Berlin. Germany's military posture has transformed from passive defense to active leadership. What was once unimaginable, Berlin leading Europe's war readiness, is now the new normal. This shift rewires Europe's security framework, positioning Germany not just as an economic engine, but as the strategic backbone of the continent. But this transformation opens a new front. How will Russia respond when the heart of Europe becomes the center of its containment?